TV, which is the Venture Capital TV, and it's from LATOKEN. My name is Sunny Mohanty. I'm the Regional Director of LATOKEN based here in Singapore, and I host VCTV Monday to Friday, 8 p.m. Singapore time. And I welcome you to another episode of VCTV, and we're going to discuss about investments into health tech after post vaccinations. So, before I start introducing my speakers for tonight, I just want to give a little bit of perspective. The virus struck us, the entire globe, last year in 2020. After Wuhan, the rest of the world was gripped with the virus. So, to bring to this pandemic, obviously it's called a pandemic, but the large share of the world needs to be immune to the virus. Okay, the safest way to achieve this with a vaccine. Vaccines are the technology that humanity has often relied on in the past to bring down the death toll of infectious disease. Within less than 12 months, like we are like 12 months into the pandemic, nearly 12 months, 1 year. After the beginning of the pandemic, several research teams rose to the challenge and developed vaccines that protect from SARS virus that you've heard in the past, the virus that causes COVID-19. So now it's about putting that fire out. Okay. So the topic is around post vaccinations. Now, every country, every government has rolled out vaccinations. Okay. So what happens post vaccinations? What happens after we receive immunity from this with this virus? Where are these startups going to focus on if they're in the health tech space? Where are these investors, these VCs who invest into this health tech startups, where they're going to focus on? So let's talk about more and let's hear from our speakers today. To share the insights from various parts of the world, we have Raghu joining us from US, Devang from India, Anuj, Harsh, and Gary soon as well. So let's start with Raghu. Good morning. Welcome back on VCTV. How are you today? Introduction and background, please.
Good morning. Thanks to LATOKEN and Sunny. Really enjoy this, even though it's a little early in the day for us, but I always learn a lot from this panel. I'm from Princeton, New Jersey. I have a consulting company which does seed to harvest advising. I'm a serial entrepreneur, angel investor, and business mentor. And I've been in the biotech space only for the last 5 years, although I've been in other areas for the last 20 years.
Fantastic. And welcome back. And sorry if we just woke you up, sorry, in the morning. I mean, you were like, Gary wakes up at 4 a.m. He's here. I'm going to talk to him later. But thank you so much for your dedication and your time to VCTV. I really appreciate you waking up morning and giving time to us. Thank you. And welcome back on VCTV. Next, I have Devang. Hi, Devang. How are you? Hope everything is okay.
Everything is great. Thanks. Thanks again, LATOKEN and Sunny. I'm Devang Mehta, a partner at Anthill Ventures, a speed scaling ecosystem based out of India and Singapore. We invest in scale companies all the way from seed to Series A. In conjunction with that, I'm also a founding member at Lumos, which is a healthcare advisory company. We help scale companies through business and technical interventions and help them scale to Asia. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Devang, for that introduction. Then I have Anuj. Hi, Anuj. Welcome back on VCTV. How are you?
I'm good, Sunny. Thank you so much. Great to be back. Quickly introducing myself, I am a serial entrepreneur. Started 3 startups in the last decade. Presently working as the founder for Yellow Sapphire Technologies and a health tech venture called Totem. Along with my venture, I work with iAngels in Israel, with C2 Angels in Australia, and a family fund based out of Buffalo, New York. I'm also an international partner at World Business Angel Forum, where we try to promote entrepreneurship across the world.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Harsh, over to you, please. Intro and background.
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Harsh Shetia. I'm a venture partner with our network, and I'm a pharmacy graduate myself. In fact, during the months of March and April, I was in touch with a few professors at Bombay University, trying to build a rapid diagnostic kit for the COVID test. So we reached a good stage before the actual kit came out. So I am deeply involved in the COVID, the entire system. Hopefully, you can add some pointers over here.
Harsh, I never knew that you're pharmacy educated as well. Wow, that's fantastic. Good to know. Thank you so much, and welcome back on VCTV. Last but not least, Gary. Gary, good morning, Gary. How are you
Good
today?
morning. Oh, I'm great. I'm great. Yes.
Fantastic.
It's great to be here. Anyhow, I'm just a country boy from Pennsylvania. I have all these people here, these incredible people and good friends. So it's great to be here. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 17 companies, been involved in 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. I also started Eva.ai, one of the top AI HR tech companies, $1 billion AI HR tech company founded with David Yang. I keep saying a $1 billion company, a billionaire partner. Hopefully, some of it's rubbing off. You know what I mean? And then I got Ragu, my friend, in the news here. It's great and harsh. So it's BBB. I don't know. Anyhow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love artificial intelligence. I'm writing a lot about, I just finished a series of articles on quantum computing and quantum networks. I love cybersecurity and decentralized systems. And the world is about data and understanding how that data impacts our lives. It impacts our businesses. So that's really where what we're focused on. And of course, cybersecurity, because when it's all said and done, we need to be secure. So great to be here. I'm the CEO, co-founder, and president of GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Silicon Valley, California.
Fantastic. But now you are based in Florida. Thank you so
I'm
much,
in
Gary.
Florida. I'm COVIDized in Florida.
Gosh, COVIDized.
Although I didn't
I
get
love
it.
that word. Thank you. Thank you. Great. Thanks for that intro and background. 2020 may be the year from hell, like we know that, but health tech IPOs boom continues despite COVID-19 pandemic, rising unemployment, and 2020's other woes that we are quite aware of. Healthcare technology firms continue to go public with the IPO. So far, as per statistics from the internet, I've just found out 6 health tech firms have already gone public in 2020. Wow, that's a great news, isn't it? So let's talk about these startups who are changing game changers in the health tech space, and let's find out what investors are looking at beyond the vaccination stage. After we are immune to the virus, what happens? What are they now looking? You never know when another pandemic is going to hit the globe, so we have to be ready, especially the startups and the investors. Let's start with Raghu with opening remarks, please.
Yeah, I think although like right now the vaccine supply chain area and the opening up of the economy are kind of the focus, some of the technologies that had to be kind of to handle the acceleration that was forced on by the pandemic are going to be used for other purposes. For instance, the whole accelerated clinical trials aspect is come here to stay. It's completely changed that whole regulatory process. And the other thing is like mRNA and RNAi technologies, which were, relatively new, now are going to be applied across the board for a lot of other indications. So I think there have been a lot of positives, that came out of it. Now, it always after one of these singularities, then even though things are done for a specific purpose, they kind of, even some of the companies may actually go under and all that, but the technologies and the whole frameworks always continue, and they actually create a boom, going forward. So I think that's the stage that we are in. I think especially the health tech, biotech, medtech area is going to have a lot of, I think the next couple of years is going to be very good for that. And supply chain logistics is the current hot for this thing. The vaccine distribution is still not a very good story, at least in the US. Some of that is challenges or because of the non-centralized, environment with all these states involved. Everyone is doing anything. Like for me, I'm registered in 4 different, registries, and whichever comes first, supposedly they will reconcile. So who knows? I hope that happens.
Oh, yes. I think I was reading the news as well, even though I don't much follow anything regarding coronavirus, but I was just reading about vaccination. I saw a lot of challenges, as you rightly said, in supply chain. A lot of countries haven't received the vaccinations yet. Some of them, obviously, Singapore, we had, I think we received vaccinations a lot in January, early January, but there are other countries which are obviously facing a lot of issues. So let's talk about that more from India perspective as well. Devang, over to you with the opening remarks. What's happening with the vaccination situation in India? First, let's start with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably as good or as dismal as the rest of the world. I think, like every other nation, the priority is for frontline healthcare workers for
Yeah.
good reason. And then come seniors, especially those with comorbid conditions. So I think, that's constant with, the global trend towards vaccination. I think this is probably in one way the first real test of, for example, things like a national ID system. It's called
Yeah.
Aadhaar in India, right? Let's say a pandemic happened 8, 10 years ago. It's really, it'd be far more chaotic than today, where at least there's a centralized registry of a database driven by a national ID, which is fairly effective. So, I mean, those the vaccination will happen. It's fairly well centralized as compared to the US, I guess, because of the nature of the politics and the center-state relationships and just the overall socioeconomics of it. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I think vaccinations will happen at a good rate, and then I think in a quarter or so we'll all be in a much better state than we are today. Now, with regard to startups, I think those that have, I think post-vaccination is back to the same business fundamentals that we've always looked at for funding a company, which is team, pedigree, addressable market, and all that.
Yeah.
I think in the interim, from the past 6 months to the next few months, the ones that have managed to pivot well enough to sustain their, to sustain their runway and grow. Also, in some cases, healthcare IT, healthcare logistics, and all have done fairly well. And then those in non-logistics areas that they managed to pivot well enough to ride out the wave will emerge stronger, right? Their business fundamentals will emerge stronger, and they'll be well positioned to raise their first round or the next round, or be well positioned to talk to any investor at any stage.
Yeah.
And those that have not been able to do so will be, at an inherent disadvantage, or will be inherently struggling with their valuation or sustainability and viability. So you can think of COVID as just another variable, in the whole ecosystem, and those that have managed to navigate it well will emerge stronger.
Absolutely. I think anything to do with remote healthcare support is here to stay forever.
Yes, yes.
That's what I feel. Okay, with that, let's move to Harsh. Harsh, what's your perspective? I mean, you can talk about India. You also invest in Southeast Asia. So what's your perspective in terms of vaccinations that just got introduced and post-vaccinations? What are the kind of trends you're going to see in terms of health tech startups? So where are these startups going to more
Got it.
focus on? Yeah. And the investments around it.
Got it. So, sure. So vaccines, I would not be too optimistic or too bullish about it, because the way that the vaccine has been released, it kind of opens a Pandora's box in a way, right? So a typical vaccine has like a 4-stage process, 4-phase clinical trials, which they go to for approvals, right? This time they've cut corners tremendously, just so that people have that mental security that you can still get vaccinated, when in fact the efficacy and the side effects have not actually been tested thoroughly as lot, right? So vaccination, I would not be too bullish on that. So that is why even despite the vaccination, we still have to ensure that we kind of protect the elderly, and they still take precautions, and that's going to be there for another 1 to 2 years at least. People take care of that. That's why. So this goes on to the next phase, right? What that leads to is it gives an opportunity for geriatric care startups a lot, right? So for example, we just got pitched by one of the startups who's focused primarily on geriatric home care. They provide nursing facilities, home supplies of medical emergency beds and that kind of stuff, right? It provides an opportunity for that, because a vaccine is not going to be a solution. At the same time, regarding the vaccines, I would also suggest that this could probably lead to a slippery slope if we kind of reduce the guidelines for the vaccines so low. This could create like a host of other vaccines in the market, which may or may not be that effective, but they're simply approved, right? That could have much more potential damaging long-term effects, which we need to take care of. So that is the other thing which we need to look at: diagnostic monitoring systems. That is where I see a lot of potentials, right? How can we quickly, so a typical four-stage clinical trial takes 3 to 5 years at least, because there's a specific amount of time, right, in how much the time that vaccine or a medicine for that matter, the testing takes place. If we can simulate those conditions and accelerate that faster, so that the vaccine generation process is faster. There are specific companies who are specifically into creating, these kind of molecules or these kind of vaccines at the ground level. So if we can find a way to accelerate those processes, there I see a tremendous opportunity, so that, instead of a 5-year cycle, the entire vaccine generation or the medicine generation takes place within 2 to 3 years. That would be a much better option.
Yes.
Another alternative which I see is in terms of data records. So the biggest vulnerability which has been exposed right now is data records. Medical records across the world has been completely shambles. If we had those records when the COVID kind of came out, we could have pinpointed and identified which sectors of the population are more at risk, which were less at risk, and we could have prioritized that, in protecting them and compared to the others. So that is where I see, lots of opportunity in terms of a centralized database of records, as Devang was pointing out as well, right? Kind of
Yeah,
linking it to Aadhaar or a social security number in the US, something along those lines. That is where true opportunity is.
absolutely. So startups, great opportunities for you right there. Thank you so much, Harsh. Moving on to Anuj, let's start with your opening remarks um, about this topic.
So, never before have I seen such a scenario where the entire world has been anxiously waiting for one thing. And then when that thing finally arrives, no one wants to take it. It's like wanting something the entire year for Christmas, and then when Christmas finally arrives, and then the PS5 that you wanted, you have that in front of you, but you're like, nah, I
Yeah,
I don't think if I should take that right now.
yeah,
That's exactly what's been happening with vaccine. Although of course mass inoculation have started, people have started getting shots, but it's fairly obvious from the initial data that's rolling in that people are hesitant to get the vaccine. Uh, the target that governments have been establishing, they are barely struggling to meet 50% of that target. If they're planning to inoculate somewhere around 7,000 people in a day, they're barely able to do 3,500. Uh, After the fact that when a vaccine comes in and it's been rushed through a trial, it comes with a lot of unknown variables, which are letting turnout be even lesser. So when you talk about New Delhi, uh, only 8 people were inoculated in AIIMS New Delhi, which is the premier hospital in India. The reason for that was, even with the staff at AIIMS going in for the vaccine, a lot of them were turned down because they had comorbidities. And that's going to be the case as well with the guidelines in place. People who are at high risk with respect to comorbidities would be turned down. So the goals that government and private institutions had in mind, that we're probably going to have a mass vaccination done by July this year, and then by third quarter we're going to be back to the old normal.
yeah,
I don't see that happening anytime soon. um, However, what I do see is a fundamental shift in terms of how people approach healthcare. Uh, just talking about Southeast Asia in particular, I mean, Europe has had universal healthcare for a while. Canada has had that. Australia has had that. So all the major powers have always had that free healthcare for all system, which
yes,
has
true.
basically covered everyone. But as bigger countries, as more countries with a higher population like China and India are moving towards that, set up for a national health database, they are witnessing potential challenges in that, and they are witnessing a potential resistance from
Yeah,
people. Along with it, people are actually realizing that we need this, but do we need this from the government? So that mismatch is creating a huge opportunity where
Right.
people want it, but they don't want it from the government and they don't want it to be untested.
Wow.
So that creates a market where new company can come in. Even before vaccine, I've always said this, that COVID in itself is a healthcare crisis, but it's a short-term crisis. Even if the government doesn't meet its vaccination target in 6 months, they're probably going to meet it in a year. And I'm fairly certain by the end of 2021, we'll be back to the way things were. But what comes after it is going to be the generational effect, the ripple effect that you will feel for COVID, where you're going to have people with mental health issues. There's this recent paper that was published by a UK university that said that 20% of the population that's recovering from COVID is developing some form of mental health issue. There are going to be issues related to cardiovascular conditions. There are going to be pulmonary issues, which will manifest themselves over the next 10 to 30 years. Take tuberculosis as an example. Once someone recovers from tuberculosis, the next wave or the next effect that hits them, it's after 30 years when the calcification that they develop in their lungs starts to rupture. So that major healthcare crises where you're going to need constant therapy, you're going to need constant care, is probably going to be it's probably going to be felt after 5 years or after 10 years, and then so on and so forth. So while COVID only lasted a year or two, the effects of it would certainly be generational for many years to come, if not decades.
I think, Anuj, I totally agree with the points and the risks that you have actually highlighted here beyond 2021, when we hope that things get better. But the side effect of COVID, as you rightly said, so we just want to know how these startups can capitalize on that space and use this challenge as an opportunity. Harry, moving over to you, how are things with toilet paper in Florida?
Oh, we have a lot. Yeah, I got to tell you, I have one of my garages. I have 3 garages. I'm the toilet paper king now.
Yay!
I'm ready. Listen, if we get into a bind, I got toilet paper for all my friends, so don't worry about it.
I know where I'm going if there's a zombie apocalypse.
Listen, if you need toilet paper, you just call Gary, okay? No problem. So anyhow,
Perfect.
we're in actually things are not bad. So, if we look at down in Florida, actually, because you can be outside, because you're not cooped up inside and can walk and run and bicycle, it's not so bad. It's actually a good situation. So,
Right.
and if we look at it, Sonny, we've gone down through, and as we've digitally transformed our lives, I mean, this has really helped. The things in healthcare that have happened over the last year are just amazing. Think about it. I was on a panel recently in Europe by a group called PharmaVision, which works with the top pharmaceutical companies. And they asked me to be on a panel of, I don't know why, of experts on AI, but anyhow, I did it. Anyhow, we talked about, modeling, not using bench time, but actually using artificial intelligence to model. And if we look at it, Pfizer used Watson for their COVID vaccine, and many of the other pharmaceutical companies do. So this is really the dawn of a new era, the dawn of the era that we're starting to use artificial intelligence in the right kind of neural networks, machine learning, deep learning, to be able to solve very, very complex problems. So I'm encouraged by it. The other thing is I'm an investor in a group that actually does remote patient monitoring for the elderly. And of course, with COVID, they wouldn't let you in a nursing home. People didn't want to take their loved ones into those homes. So of course, the business just took off. And I'm encouraged by it because this should have happened a long time ago. We should have had it set up so we could keep our loved ones home longer, so they wouldn't have to go into those nursing homes. And guess what? It costs a lot of money. When my father got sick, and I put about $90,000 into his house. I refitted it and put it artificial intelligence and sensors and all that in. Anyhow, I kept my father home 3 years, and I saved money across the board. I saved money because a nursing home costs $14,000 a year. It was half the cost and my father enjoyed it immensely. He got to have his dog, he got to have fun, he got to go to walks, walk around his yard at his house. So remote patient monitoring. At the same time, think about what's happened. COVID patients are locked up into wards. Many times people don't want to go in. Still, they have to have the things done within their rooms. So imagine having these robots to be able to clean and sterilize, ultraviolet robots. So it's encouraging that that's moved forward. Then about telemedicine. I don't know about you, but a year ago, doctors didn't want to do Zooms to talk. Now the situation is, it's like, oh, okay, can we do a Zoom?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So the kind of things that have transpired and transformed our lives. Anusha's right, our lives has fundamentally changed. But I believe that this happened, a lot of it in a good way, because we needed to do these things and people were dragging their feet. It was like a boat with an anchor. They were anchored down and they didn't want to move forward. What COVID has done is really helped us move forward in areas that we wouldn't have done before. Of course, with artificial intelligence, we've got an incredible amount of data out there, and being able to help us make decisions faster, better, and in a more innovative way is encouraging. So this has transformed us. Robotics, of course, VR, AR, to be able to assist in surgery, to train nursing students, to train doctors, to help doctors to be able to go through an operation before they actually do it so they can understand what's happening. So this is this dawn of a new era has happened. We need to embrace it. You're right, there are going to be impacts to our lives, but I argue they're very positive impacts and things that should have happened anyhow. And the other thing, Sonny, I was working for a U.S. governmental group, intergovernmental group, for about 3 years. My company won a contract, and we work with diseases that were much, much worse than COVID. Let me tell you, much, much worse. So we need to feel blessed that we didn't get the worst of what could have happened, but it's a wake-up call that we need to be able to adapt and change and look at things a bit differently. So it's an exciting time.
Yes. Great. Thank you so much, Gary, for sharing those positive impact as well. I mean, I would say it's a mix of both. As Anuj said, it's a side effect of the virus that's going to hit us after end of maybe after 2021 and beyond. It's like the mental issues and the side effects of the coronavirus that leads to other disease. So that's one part, and then obviously we have supply chain issues as well. And I see on this panel none of you have trust in the vaccinations as well, and the government as well. So how do startups? I mean, this is an opportunity. I mean, as Gary rightly said, a lot of technology has come into play to help sort out these issues, but still, we still have many challenges to cross. So how would you advise a startup, or where should they be focused on coming, not short term, not like 2021 and we forget about it, but long term? I'm going to start with Raghu, maybe. Raghu, yes?
Sure. Yeah, I think it is important for startup to not look for the valuations like they were before, unless you are in a few areas, right? See, because some of the things that are happening is this whole SPACs, for instance, is a new phenomenon that's happened where people are kind of using these blank check companies to raise a lot of money and then looking for the right companies. So that's a new phenomenon. So I think you have to really know some things have changed, some things haven't, but the valuations, I believe, are not going to be what it was, because in some sectors, money is going to flow in. I think in the sustainability and climate change space, there's a lot of money coming in. We were just on a panel yesterday on HealthTech and clean tech. Some of these areas which post 2008 didn't get money, they're going to get money. And in healthcare space, I think immediately this rapid testing. See, a lot of people are testing, but the results are coming after 24, 48 hours. And the problem with that is it's not helping up with opening up the economy. It's not you need something that is immediate turnaround. So rapid testing, which does not require a round trip to a lab. That kind of thing where, any dental office or any building or, hotel can, immediately check people. The vaccine passport is going to come, all of us. The privacy issue, data privacy issue comes in there. So cybersecurity is there, but the privacy is an additional aspect with medical records, as I think Anuj and a few others talked about. The technology is there. The laws are a little bit different in different parts of the world. Privacy is particularly an issue in the US. And
Right.
I think unfortunately, it has not progressed. Again, the hope is the vaccine passport pushes the button to kind of apply those in a more uniform way. And
Yeah.
I'm starting to see that happen. And I just happen to be helping a company which is in that space, both in cybersecurity and privacy, in a very elegant way, using essentially a distributed way to kind of split and store data so you cannot breach one place and get anything. And then there's a way to have one of those distributed stores to be managed by an ombudsman, so that if somebody needs to get a data that has been deleted, you will have to go through a kind of process where an ombudsman can decide if it is for a legitimate purpose. So I think the technologies are out there. It's just a question of it being applied, and crisis like this always creates acceleration, as Gary said. Actually, I'm a believer in the vaccine. I will take it, tomorrow if I get it, because I think the private sector, by and large, I know liabilities were taken out, but still,
Yeah.
they are not going to be doing. This is not a political game in most places, and I believe the technologies were already there. It was just the process was a little antiquated. A lot of it was still, especially the clinical trials process. In fact, advising another startup in that called BlockCube, which is automating the acquisition of data and using blockchain, prevent it from being fudged and things like that. So there's a lot more trust that is there. So there is a lot of opportunity in all parts of that. The clinical trials, especially because every country has its own little spin on the regulatory process. So there's a lot of opportunity for local startups. And so I think I'm very positive. I think as Gary said, on the data side, data analytics, AI, AR, VR for the remote, access and the experiential stuff. Hygiene is another thing that has been brought to the forefront because of COVID. And I think these technologies about, how people are kind of keeping up with the hygiene in different settings. It could be public setting like a hotel or a hospital, as well as in-home things, smart homes, because people have been spending a lot of time at home. The smart home industry has actually picked up. A lot of the IoT thing, which was more of a cosmetic thing, now has become more of a necessity. So there's a lot of opportunities. I really think it's almost like taking the lid off and letting things happen.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a positive year, at least
Yeah.
next year.
Actually, Raghu, I think this pandemic has exposed a lot of opportunities also, right? As you rightly said. We already knew these technologies existed, but how to apply these technologies? We have a problem case, right? We have the technology, and the technology was always there, but now it's the right time to apply those technologies to solve these problems. So rightly said, Raghu.
One additional thing is that I know Anuj was talking about the side effects. I would not be so pessimistic because because of the AI and some of these things we have, we can detect some of those things. Some things obviously will take time before even the symptoms pop up. But a lot of the other things we're in a better position to predict stuff using AI than we used to be. Of course, it's contingent on having the right data and also not having bias in the data.
So yeah, I second with Raghu. If I have a vaccination tomorrow, I'm going to take it. Anuj, go ahead.
I'm definitely not pessimistic about the vaccine. Just a small correction here. I have complete trust in the brilliant minds that have developed this. My point was that the public is hesitant. While I certainly believe, looking at the data, that it's fairly safe to go ahead with it, because if my numbers are correct, there's only a 0.15% side effect that people are facing. which considering the circumstances, I think is a great number. So from my perspective, I think it's a great opportunity. Yet, with the distrust that people have developed in the healthcare community because of their experience, because of how the industry operates, that distrust is causing people to hesitate to go for it.
See, I'm
So how
not
to
sure
bring
if
that?
distrust is the reason for that, or we just don't have the supply chain. At least in the US, it's still
Yeah,
not clear whether it's not reaching the people or whether people are not taking it. I'm sure in time we will know more.
good point.
I mean,
That's a good
I
point.
don't know about US, but speaking about Southeast Asia in particular, let's take India for example. You know better that how every Indian household has that belief that doctor will advise you test even when you don't need it just to rack up their billing. And I'm fairly certain that belief exists in US as well. There was this very viral tweet that went out that a lady went in to get a rapid COVID test, which was $125 without any insurance. But when she used her union's health plan, it ended up costing her $787. So that distrust because of that malpractice, because of all these issues, in my opinion, that's primarily the cause, especially in Southeast Asia. I'm talking about India, Pakistan, Singapore, Indonesia. All these markets have had horrible experience going to hospitals, horrible experience dealing with doctors, and that's actually now manifesting in how people are perceiving them to be.
I think that is a point to be noted, Anuj. At the same time, with the technology in place, I think with the predictive analysis, as you rightly said, Raghu, I mean things can be predicted. But let's just stay hopeful. Are you going to take up the vaccination, Anuj, when it's out?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm already registered for it.
Right.
My mother will be getting it in February. If all goes well, I would probably myself get it sometime in June or July. So yeah, I'm already registered for it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Anuj. Harsh, coming over to you with the same questions. Now we have a problem case. We know the problem beyond the vaccination, beyond just the coronavirus pandemic for the year 2021. Beyond that, what's your advice to the startups? And like Raghu is mentoring so many startups, he's advising so many startups in the right direction. Like, this is going to be like not like short term, but long term. So, what is your advice to startups who basically are in the health tech space, but probably couldn't make it big, couldn't grab that opportunity?
Got it. So I personally see that there's going to be a rapid change in how the healthcare is looked at across the world, right? Currently, what happens is the doctor is the gatekeeper of the entire healthcare system. I would not go into the politics of it, but how it happens is it's the doctor at the center of it who connects the pharmacy, who connects the diagnostic, who connects the medical device, etc., and all of that at the center, right? You probably need to reimagine how the healthcare is structured because currently that one gatekeeper is the one because of which the prices are being jacked up. And the point which Anuj mentioned, right? People have increasingly developed distrust towards doctors, particularly after we had in US where one doctor effectively shut down the entire economy, and following that across the world, all the countries started shutting down the entire economies, right? So people
Yeah.
have developed a lot of distrust towards doctors, and what used to happen was when a person is falling sick at these times and these tough times, we could not get hand of the doctor, as in the doctors weren't even willing to treat patients at these during these COVID times. So what has happened is it has kind of exposed the current vulnerability of how the healthcare is currently poised, right? So that is where this is a very good opportunity to completely reimagine how the healthcare is structured. Instead of probably having doctor as a gatekeeper, he could probably be just another part in the value chain and not be the one who's the critical one making all the decisions. That I see is going to be the long term of how the entire healthcare ecosystem is structured. As far as opportunities is concerned, obviously the point of remote healthcare is really going to pick up right now because telemedicine is one part of it. Teleradiology has already been there for a couple of years. I also see room for a lot of small micro clinics which can be penetrating into deeper geographies, especially in Southeast Asia and other weaker developed nations, where you can't have a full-fledged 100-bedded tertiary care hospital. You need to have micro clinics where basic care basic services can be provided, right? I see a lot of opportunity over there. That is where I see a lot of pivots happening. Additionally, we need to focus on how we can make the technology easy, right? So
Yeah.
data transcription, that alone is like $1 billion industry. Data
Right.
transcription alone. If we have ways to make it simple, make it more simple, where doctors can, the data transcription becomes much more simpler, and the data gets recorded in a central database where each and every individual's medical history is tracked over there. So that is going to be very vital, so that we can easily monitor whether the person's conditions are. And as Raghu also pointed out, diagnostic tests, right? We need to be
Yeah.
more innovative on the diagnostic tests, not just better diagnostic tests, but better delivery systems, right? So diagnostic test also has two aspects to it. One is the technology being used for testing it. One is the delivery mechanism being used, right? The current RT-PCR system is a very accurate system, but it takes a lot of time and it's very generic with around 90% accuracy and 10% failure rate, right? We need to come up with much more accurate diagnostic testing systems. That makes it much more efficient.
So the doctors, obviously, we couldn't trust the doctors. As I said, they are the pivotal role in the ecosystem. Is it because they didn't have that data with them, or is it because of the medical education? What is that? What was the reason, do you think, for you?
I personally feel not just in India but across the world, right? Doctors have been kind of put on a pedestal that we kind of used to have this implicit trust on the doctors, at least before COVID time. So even when we knew that they were resorting to underhanded practices, they were being sponsored by companies, etc. And I would not get into all that stuff. But the point is, we would still kind of trust these doctors to, kind of be taking care of our well-being. But however, at this point of time, we've kind of seen that that's not exactly the case. So that is where I see, that doctors, they are obviously very important in terms of providing good healthcare, but they cannot be the sole decision makers. They have to be a part of the value system rather than being the entire gatekeeper of the value system.
But they are also
And we
regulated
need to
or
have a more
governed.
democratic service.
I think they are regulated and governed by a central body and authority as well, right?
And that body is completely run by doctors as well. There is literally no oversight over there into how these doctors practice.
All right, that's a challenge there then. Okay,
So
thank you,
that is
Harsh.
where
Okay, carry on.
exactly.
Anything else you
So
wanted to
that is
add?
exactly where so that is exactly where we need to redefine what the healthcare ecosystem looks like rather than the present system.
Okay, it's the ecosystem. Thank you so much, Harsh. Devang, over to you, please. Talking about, I mean, we have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of solutions. We have the technology. We have figured out ways to solve these problems. But again, we need to be focused on certain areas than others. So, what's your best piece of advice for your portfolios that are looking to raise funds for the next rounds, or the if you are into seed stage as well? What's your best advice?
I think you just use the same thought process and business fundamentals, right? Consumers of the future will want a certain set of products and services, and there'll be corporations that will provide, like hospitals that will provide these products and services, which a lot of which will be provided by startups. So, for example, I think what COVID has done to a lot of people is now in the future they just want personalized medicine. Right, they want to go in for a regular checkup and like an annual checkup, and with one drop of blood, they want to be screened for all kinds of diseases right at that point, starting from the most basic, flu or whatever, to the most complicated chronic disease. They want all that data to be instantly available in all mobile and laptop devices, protected by data and everything. They want it at the fingertips. And then all the downstream activity of cure or prevention or remission, they want to be completely personalized. For example, nobody just wants to say, oh, go for a chemo, spray and pray. Those days are over. People want a personalized um, treatment for even cancer or complicated diseases. They want a personalized diet to help prevent remission of cancer. They want data-driven decisions on what to eat, when to eat, how much of protein or things like that is appropriate for them. Even how much of exercise regimens and all that will be highly personalized and driven by data and algorithms, which will be provided by startups in most cases. So, you just have to think of what the consumer of the future needs, how they need it, when they need it, how it should be delivered to them. And, you build products and services to address those markets. If you get the timing right and you get the right team assembled, you're on your way to success.
Yeah, I think Devanga rightly said, and I really agree because if I just went to a doctor and my blood test and it tells my entire gives me the entire snapshot of my healthcare, like then I would be like the
Sunny.
most happiest person in the
So
planet,
actually,
right? Sorry.
one company tried that. It is called Theranos, and it
Hmm.
turned out to be the largest scam of the 21st century, of the
What
last decade.
happened? What happened?
So the Theranos, they raised around, they were valued at around $8 to $9 billion. It was a
Hmm.
complete scam, and they did not have actual functioning devices whatsoever. They
Who were the
tried that, but it
investors?
failed miserably. I
Who
hope
invested?
I, lot of big names, lots and lots and lots of big names. I
Right.
probably
Wow.
Gary would be able to share more insights because it used to be in Silicon Valley itself. So, but it was a complete scam of how they, kind of ripped off the investors and ripped off all the money that was there.
Yeah, that is correct. I think the founder had very questionable ethics. Also, I remember that, Harsh. But I think that doesn't change the overall need for
Hmm.
personalized medicine and highly data-driven decisions on healthy lifestyles.
Yeah, that's a good point and a good point as well, because obviously fraud and scams, I mean, at that level,
Yes.
well, we don't know what happened there. I don't know the story. So thanks for sharing. But Devang, you've got a point. I really want my entire health history just by a blood test. If somebody can give me that solution as a consumer, I'm very happy. I'm going to spend dollars in getting that solution for me. Thank you, Devang.
Right.
Gary always speaks about hyper personalization. Sorry, anybody has anything to add
No,
here?
just to finish that point, this just a quick 30 seconds on that. There's a startup here, for example, that actually takes all your physical health records
Mhm.
and digitizes them, and it's universally available on a mobile. So you go to a doctor and says, "Oh, when was the last time you did a protein test?" You just open your mobile, you search for the word protein, and it's
Yeah.
so hard to answer that question, right? You go for a regular doctor visit, and the doctor asks you a question. At least in India, 9 out of 10 people don't know the answer. When was the last time you did this or that, or did you get vaccinated in your childhood for this? Now imagine having that through a simple keyword search on your mobile phone in the doctor's office. All the answers you need.
Absolutely, because people like
Devangji,
us go
That
on.
Devangji,
definitely,
I think you're explaining at Totem. We are doing exactly that. So uh, more than happy to have a discussion on this. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
thank you so much for describing our product.
it's a
so
different
Devang is
company.
quite right. Hyper personalization is definitely a good opportunity. It can get really valuable. And with all the data in a single place, nothing better than that.
Yeah, just imagine like a person like me who used to live in UK, then moved to Singapore. All my records are gone, like lost. And I have to, if somebody asks me, were you vaccinated against this and that? I said, I don't know. I don't have the data on me in Singapore, and that's just sitting there somewhere in the UK. So again, coming to that point, Gary, over to you with your remarks. I mean, I know you embrace hyper personalization, AI in a big way. So let's just hear it from you.
Yeah, I mean it's so her name was Elizabeth Holmes, by the way, and the Walton family, Rupert Murdoch. I mean, the one thing
Wow.
is, remember that what the one of the reasons that she failed is because there's this idea of fake it then make it. But there's one thing you can't do it. Doing it with health solutions is not a good idea. So fake it and make it in a lot of ways, building PowerPoint presentations, etc., are really it's not a bad thing, but in that particular setting, not. And she was very persuasive. Um, her office was on Sand Hill Road. I used to pass it. I got into my office, so I never seen her there, but I passed it. I mean, it is about this. So a few years ago, I took off a summer and I brought a group of MBA students from Russia, from Skolkovo, over to Silicon Valley and worked with doctors from Stanford. My project was called Living to 120. And we talk about the kind of advancements that are going to be needed. Recently, I wrote an article about living to 150. So think about it. We go into the doctor every year, you have a physical, but why is that? It makes no sense. Why wouldn't we want to know exactly where we are at any one point in time? So things like smart pills to understand. So if there is cancer in your system, to be able to course correct. And the other thing is, the challenge with cancer is that it's not about getting it out. It's about getting too many of the good cells out. So imagine the technologies to be able to go in and kill only that, directed at those particular malignant cells that are there. So we need to go down through and we need to look at things differently. You know, going into a hospital, when my father had his stroke and I went into the hospital, I was astounded actually at the doctors are too busy. They don't know what's going on. They come in, pick up a chart. Oh, yeah. They have no clue. They're inundated and they don't sleep enough. And so
Yeah,
you're
that's true.
trying to go in. And I mean, I was telling the doctor, this is a real conversation. The doctor said, I have a friend at Stanford University. My father was in Pennsylvania and in the hospital. And my father's kidney was failing. And I said, let's go down through and let's do a temporary dialysis. He said, no, there's nothing like that. I knew it is because I had talked to my doctor friends that are top kidney doctors from Stanford University. So I knew it. I said, come on, well, give me a break. I called my friend up in California. So do me a favor. Can you get on the phone with this guy and set him straight? I said, because I'm not happy. And anyhow, what happened is my father ended up living another year. He got out of his problem with his kidney. Of course, it wasn't as good as it could have been, but he got a lot better. The point is, that's the challenge is data. They don't have enough data and to be able to present it. Now think about having not a smart but intelligent health assistant that can help us understand how to live our lives better and of course correct, essentially help us control ourselves. So that's really where this thing's gone. The other term, you know, when we were on this conversation today, I thought about another idea. I want to call this healthcare service chain optimization with very patient centric. Everything's around understanding how to be able to optimize the system to be able to make our lives better. So in fact, I'm going to write an article about it just because I was inspired by Anuj and Raghu and Devang and yourself and Harsh. So I'm going to actually write an article about that because that's what it's all about. Patient-centric healthcare service chain optimization. And how do we do that today? So that's really what it's all about. The good news is it's getting better and better, but it's still not good enough. We need to understand that we need to be more patient-centric, need to be more hyper-personalized, and we need to understand at any one point in time what's happening with our bodies and course correct. By the way, this is the same thing that's happening across multiple processes, whether it's a supply chain or manufacturing, cybersecurity. We need to understand at a moment's notice what's happening. And that hasn't been the case, but the good news with technology, we're now moving into that realm.
Great
Gary,
points, Gary.
this is why I call you the Grandmaster, because again, you're just describing what we are doing at Adutum.
That's fantastic.
That's exactly what I've been saying. You don't have to monitor things at certain point. I don't have to, if for a chronic condition, I don't have to monitor them at 3 months or 6 months interval. Why not have a system that's monitoring them regularly and not only plotting them in a intelligent manner that's telling you that, hey, these are the external conditions that's affecting you, and it's either helping you improve or it's making your condition go bad. And when you have that, you can basically eliminate it. Basically, that's the personalization in care that we need. That will help you improve your standard of living without making any significant changes, just by eliminating the external factors.
Yeah, it doesn't. I agree. It doesn't
So-
make sense to have annual visits to the doctor and get cures for your blood, and this is very routine stuff for me. I don't know how many of you do that, but I do that very routinely every year, and that shouldn't happen. To be honest, I want to be monitored every day so that after 6 months, 3 months, I can probably diagnose myself, and the doctor
And
also
the
have
best
same
part,
data.
and the
Yeah.
and the best part would be
it's
if you
funny,
could get
Sunny,
monitored
because
without.
Sorry,
The
Gary?
best part would be if you could get monitored.
Yeah. Beg your
Yeah,
pardon?
Gary, go
Come
ahead.
again?
So
No, Harsh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, what
I
was
was
that?
saying, I was saying the best part is if we could get monitored continuously without all those annoying wires, running around a body. That would be the perfect situation, right? Right now, it's those annoying wires which is the big deterrent.
Yeah. Have you ever done an ECG with those stickers?
It's crazy.
It's crazy, right? Sorry. Gary,
Absolutely.
you want to say something?
Honey, what I was going to say is that, it's kind of funny. All of us on the panel today are transforming into doctors. We're wearing masks and using a lot more hand sanitizer.
Yeah, you're going to be all doctors now.
Doctor?
By the
With
way,
the use of technology.
I would like to understand what happened with Haven. Haven was supposed to be redefining healthcare, right? What happened over there? Gary,
What's
if you
that?
could share some light. Haven. Google, Amazon, and Berkshire were working on that, right? On Haven.
No, that actually got shut down.
Yeah, exactly.
Got shut down, but that's because of the coronavirus. They kind of changed tax and also some political reasons. So,
Okay.
Right. Perfect. Great. I love this panel today. I have actually almost learned a lot of things, like, regarding healthcare. I think I should have this panel every day too. Health, especially on healthcare, because health is something that affects all of us in a big way. And this pandemic has exposed the loopholes in the system that we trust. Doctors, hospitals, they're not anymore trustworthy as much we thought so. So that brings us to the end of the show. I'd like to take some closing remarks from each of you, starting with Raghu.
thank you. I think we talked about a lot of things here. Ultimately, what the pandemic has done is that it has brought us to the basic person, focused on hygiene, focused on sustainability. As I think Gary was saying, we could see the Himalayas in India after a long time.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of good things, right? So personal fitness, a lot of people who never thought about the gym now suddenly were doing exercises in their homes and all. So it has brought back attention to a lot of areas which was not there, the awareness. I think personal fitness, and then the diet choices, I think somebody mentioned, plant-based, food is another huge area. In the US, at least, there's a lot of veganism and vegetarianism, and there's all this beyond meat, and that's a huge area of growth, which, another thing I think we didn't mention. So
Absolutely, Raghu. Talking about, I think I was having a conversation with Gary. A lot of our health is affected by what we eat. And if we know what, like, hyper personalized, very personalized diet for me, if I know what not to eat, then probably I'll be
it's
saving
not
a lot
only
of
what to eat, it's also on what order you eat. Protein before you eat, carbs, and there's all kinds of things, but everything is known. It's just that there's no help at the personal level. And I think what Gary
Absolutely.
was talking about, a personal
Exactly.
assistant, is what we need,
Exactly.
because all data is there. It's just putting everything
That's what we
together
need.
in one place.
Absolutely. That's what we need.
So
And the startups is an opportunity.
thank you very much. I learn a lot from these sessions, and thank you to VCTV for bringing people from all over the world, because this kind of perspective is very important to
Very important.
connect. We are all connected. Everything is connected.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Rightly said. Devang, over to you, please.
Yes, obviously echo the thought. Thank you for all these panels. Very engaging, very informative. Always a pleasure to listen to as well as participate. My advice to startups remains largely the same. Don't necessarily try to time the virus. Time the vaccine, I should say, and build a business model around coming out of the vaccine and becoming a unicorn. But definitely be cognizant of the conditions that we are. Make pivots where possible. Make sure the runway is adequate, even for the most pessimistic scenario. But keep focusing on business fundamentals and what the consumer of tomorrow is going to need, which we talked about at length today, which is personalized medicine, ubiquitously available, remote, collaborative, available in all devices, continuously monitored through IoT devices, comfort of your home, and any ailment, or even up to preempt ailment, not just get ailments and recover, but to preempt ailment, and to do it in a highly customized manner, both through treatment, diet, sunlight, every environmental and physical factor possible. Those are going to be the innovations and successes of the future. So I'd encourage.
Absolutely. Lots of opportunities. Thank you, Devang, for that. Harsh, over to you, please, with your closing remarks.
So definitely, I see this as a huge opportunity for startups to redefine how the healthcare system is. Right now, as doctors are a part of the ecosystem, we need to switch that and have patient at the center and doctor as just a part of the value system, right? The startups who look at patient first, and then look at the doctor as facilitators of the patient, right? So we have a concept of consumer and the user, right? So instead
Yeah,
of having doctor first, make it patient first, and having patient first healthcare, that I believe is going to be critical for the upcoming next few years. So I hope startups focus with that mindset, and definitely we can have a lot of progress over there. So I would like
absolutely.
to thank all the amazing panelists, Gary, Raghu, Devang, Anuj, and especially to you and VCTV as well, organizing these amazing sessions every week, every day rather.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And obviously, we're going to have you more of you. Anuj, over to you, please.
Thanks.
So, sharing my closing thoughts, like I've always said, uh, we have a different future in front of us compared to what we had in 2019. There's no going back to the old normal. Things are going to change. A lot of industries are going to change, and a lot of industries have changed, including edtech, just to name a few. Uh, I mean, I want to thank the panel because they explained my company better than I ever could. So thank you, Devang. Thank you, Gary. Uh, but yeah, like I say, we want to lead things from the front. So we are moving ahead with making that change in healthcare, with bringing better healthcare to people. So if anyone out there who wants to join us on our journey, more than happy to have a call. Please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me on LinkedIn. You have my name right here, so it's fairly easy to find me. And to everyone out there, let's look forward to a better 2021. We the worst has passed us. The light at the end of the tunnel is right in front of us. So let's get through it.
Absolutely. Very positive remarks. Thank you, Anuj, for those. Gary, last but not least, over to you, please, with your closing thoughts and remarks.
Yeah, so this has given us an incredible opportunity because obstacles that had been in front of us have been moved away. Why? Because we've wanted to take risks. The vaccine is a risk, but it's also driven us forward. The digital transformation has really taken healthcare and put it into a new level, a level that would have taken years to go in a normal situation. So I'm encouraged by it. Data is a key. Artificial intelligence is a new electricity. We need to embrace it, understand. Living to 150 is no longer a dream, but is becoming a reality. And the faster we embrace these technologies, the faster we're going to get there. And it'll help live a better quality life, a longer life, and a more fulfilling life.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you so much, Raghu, Devang, Anuj, and Has. Amazing panel. Lots to learn. Startups and founders, just rightly said, there are a lot of problems, opportunity for you to come and pitch on the show on VCTV, and we give you exposure to these investors. Just I spoke today. Again, investors, if you like to network and share the space with other investors, please feel free to do us, and I'm happy to connect you. I'll be back tomorrow on another episode of VCTV at 8 p.m. Singapore